We gather to reflect on the work that sustains all life, breaking what harms and mending what sustains. These aren't separate tasks done by separate people. They're the two hands of sacred work, and we all need both. Our culture lies to us about this. It tells us fierce and tender are opposites, that breaking is destructive and mending is constructive, that you must choose, be strong or be caring, be a fighter or a healer, break things down or build things up. Polar opposites, binary. I'd like to invite us into a new way of holding these two types of energy, not opposites, but partners. Not either or, both and. My grandmother Lily could snap a chicken's neck without flinching and then spend 3 hours making soup to feed a sick neighbor. Same hands, same day, same woman. She never questioned whether these tasks contradicted each other. The chicken died so the neighbor could live. The breaking made the mending possible. And not everyone has two hands available right now. Some of us are using everything we have just to stay alive. The breaking and mending that fosters our survival is sacred. All of this fierce tenderness, not the sanitized self-care that capitalism sells us, but the actual labor of staying alive, keeping each other alive, and refusing to let harm continue. What breaks a fever? Who sets a broken bone? Who must cut away dead tissue so healthy tissue can grow? A healer or a farmer who culls baby plants so others may grow healthy. A healer must know when to break, when to tear, when to cause necessary pain. Tenderness without the willingness to break what harms isn't tenderness, that's complicity. And who is there in the broken places? Who shows up when the worst has happened? Who patches what can be saved? A warrior. And a warrior must know when to stop fighting, when to tend wounds, when to rest and let healing happen. Fierceness without the willingness to mend what sustains isn't strength, it's just destruction. Sacred work requires both hands, always both. Let's be willing to perceive what needs breaking right now. White supremacy needs breaking. Patriarchy needs breaking. Capitalism that grinds people into dust needs breaking. The lie that some people are disposable needs breaking. The systems that destroy the earth for profit need breaking. The silence around abuse and violence needs breaking. This breaking is sacred work, not because it's easy or pleasant, but because it's necessary. Because some things are so harmful that mending them would be betrayal. Some structures can't be patched up, they must be dismantled. Our ancestors knew this. The suffragists who chained themselves to buildings and went on hunger strikes, the labor organizers who shut down factories, the civil rights activists who sat at lunch counters and marched on bridges, the Stonewall rioters who said, enough, the indigenous water protectors who put their bodies between pipelines and sacred land. They weren't violent, they were fierce. There's a difference. Fierceness protects life. Violence serves power. Fierceness breaks what threatens survival, and violence breaks what threatens comfort. This is the first hand of sacred work, breaking what harms, even when you're afraid, even when you feel small, even when the breaking seems impossible, because love demands it, because commitment requires it, because life itself depends on someone being willing to say no more and mean it. But our culture lies to us again. It tells us that breaking is the impressive work, the heroic work, the work that matters. It erases the equally sacred work of mending. Who feeds the activists after the march? Who tends the wounds? Who holds space for the grief? Who maintains the relationships that sustain movements? Who does the unglamorous daily work of keeping communities alive? This mending is also sacred work, not because it's easy or automatic, but because it is necessary. Because we can't only break, we must also build, tend, repair, nourish, hold. Our ancestors knew this too. Ella Baker didn't just organize, she made sure people ate. Octavia Butler didn't just imagine new worlds, she imagined tending the relationships that made those worlds possible. And now, Linda Sarsour in New York City coined the phrase social work as a revolutionary act as she galvanized the Arab community. And Reverend Ashley Horan transports groceries to people who need them while she documents ICE overreach in Minneapolis. The mending work is often invisible, often undervalued, often assigned to those whose labor our culture takes for granted. This is why in Women's Month, we particularly honor those whose work of mending has been erased. Women, yes, but also queer folks, disabled folks, people of color, anyone whose care work has been treated as less important than the real work of breaking. And we name those for whom the work right now is neither breaking nor mending for others, but simply enduring, persisting, staying. That work is not less than, it is the ground everything else builds on. Mending is as fierce as breaking. It takes strength to show up day after day to tend what matters. It takes courage to be tender when the world demands hardness. It takes resistance to insist that care is valuable when capitalism tells us only productivity counts. This is the second hand of sacred work, mending what sustains, even when you're tired, even when no one notices, even when the mending seems endless. Because love demands it, because commitment requires it, because life itself depends on someone being willing to say, I will hold this together and mean it. You cannot do one without the other. If you only break things, you become the harm you're trying to stop. You destroy without building. You tear down without creating space for what's next. You exhaust yourself and everyone around you because there's no rest, no repair, no renewal. If you only mend, you become complicit in the harm. You keep patching what should be destroyed. You're complicit with abuse by being too tender to confront it. You exhaust yourself trying to repair what's fundamentally broken, what was designed to harm. Sacred work requires both hands working together. Break what harms, mend what sustains, know the difference, do both fiercely, do both tenderly. And I'm speaking here about communities and movements, not individuals in every moment, because some of us are in a season of being held rather than holding. Each individual needs to move through the seasons of breaking and mending for others, for themselves, and as a whole, our larger body of beloved community uses both its hands. That is how the body of sacred work functions. This is resistance theology, not leaning on static hope, but committing to making life better, doing the sacred work yourself with your two hands, your fierce tenderness, your refusal to choose between breaking and mending. Maybe you've been told you're too soft, too gentle, that you care too much, feel too deeply, that your tenderness makes you weak. I'm here to tell you, Your tenderness is fierce. Your care is resistance. Your willingness to mend when the world wants to destroy is sacred work. You are needed exactly as you are. Maybe you've been told you're too harsh, too angry, that you break things, cause trouble, that your fierceness makes you dangerous. I'm here to tell you, your fierceness is tender. Your anger protects life. Your willingness to break what harms when the world wants to maintain comfort is sacred work. You are needed exactly as you are. And maybe, probably, you're both. Maybe you're the person who can sit with someone's grief and also confront their abuser, lock the door. Maybe you can organize a protest and also make sure everyone there gets water bottles. Maybe you can call out harm fiercely and hold space for healing tenderly. And maybe you're neither of these right now. Maybe you're exhausted, maybe you're ill or grieving or simply used up. Maybe your work right now is accepting care rather than giving it, receiving the soup your grandmother would have made. I'm here to tell you that too is sacred. You do not have to earn your place in this community by what you contribute. You belong here in your surviving. That is who we need. This is the work that sustains life. Two hands, sacred work, always both. At the moment, we're emerging from winter into spring. The ground is beginning to thaw, seeds are stirring, life is returning. The spring doesn't happen gently. Ice breaks, ground cracks, frozen things split apart, monsoons tear through. Seeds have to break their own shells to grow. Birth is fierce and tender, breaking and mending, pain and new life together. So as we move into this season, I invite you to claim both hands of sacred work. Break what needs breaking in your life, in your community, in this world. Mend what needs mending, relationships, bodies, land, hearts. Do both fiercely. Do both tenderly. Refuse to choose. This is how spring happens. This is how change happens. This is how life persists against everything that tries to destroy it. Two hands, sacred work, you carrying both. May you be held by the knowledge that all of you matters. You are whole, holy, and worthy.